Hello and welcome. This is Social Studies, Voices Across America. I'm Bill Wood.
And I'm Peter Goldsmith.
Peter, happy Valentine's Day, my friend. I think we've evolved far enough that two old men can say Happy Valentine's Day to each other.
That's a good thing, Bill. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And again, for you and me, maybe we don't have a romance, but we certainly can agree that we love a nice piece of chocolate and some beautiful roses. No problem with that.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with the emotion. Both of us have people in our lives that are very important. You have Q, your incredible wife, and I've got my daughter and my granddaughter. So yeah, we both have people that we can love and enjoy on Valentine's Day. But most of all, we've got some things we're not going to send in addition to flowers. And if you watch sports television nowadays that's designed for men, you have commercial after commercial and specials to sell flowers, a dozen roses, and you get another dozen for half price. It's quite a thing. And the other thing is chocolate that we're going to look at in just a minute.
Yeah, you know, Valentine's Day is an interesting day, Bill. I'll tell you, there's a couple of interesting things that I like about it. One of them is my wife, who you mentioned, does not really like chocolate, so I can buy her a large box and eat the whole box. She can smell the roses because I don't really care. But the other thing is, you know, Valentine's Day in our culture is always February the 14th. Doesn't move around. It's February 14th, Valentine's Day. However, we used to have Abraham Lincoln's birthday on the 12th and George Washington's birthday on the 20-something, I remember. And now we have President's Day. But President's Day moves around also. Yeah. So are you telling me now that Valentine's Day, because of the mass marketing of it, is more important than honoring our presidents of this great nation? So commercialism has now taken over, and we now have a 14th century holiday, started, by the way, of famous writer Geoffrey Chaucer, back in the 14th century, has taken over importance from our presidents. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, the flowers and the birds and the bees. Valentine's Day used to be a time of spring, didn't it? To sort of announce the coming of spring.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was taken from, as most Judeo-Christian holidays are, taken from the pagans, which came before both of those religions. And what it was, and Chaucer wrote this in his poem, it's called the Parliament of Fools. That's the name of the poem. And it talks about the feast of St. Valentine, which is Valentine's Day, is when the birds got together and chose their mates. And as they procreated, that indicated a harbinger of spring. And obviously in those days, everything was an agrarian society, and that was extremely important, much more so now that most of us don't live in nature. So it was a big deal in those days, and it's come down. You know, the flowers part of it, that started in the 18th century in England. It became a custom to give your paramour flowers. They don't say what kind, but to give flowers because of the smell and the beauty, and therefore the romance of flowers on Valentine's Day. Yeah.
So you wonder if the birds, maybe as Chaucer was looking at the birds and writing about the birds, I wonder if the birds would fly around with a dozen roses under one wing and a box of chocolate under the other. You know, I mean, is that what Chaucer might have seen? Maybe even have.
No. What Chaucer saw actually was what we used to call in those days ye olde Google. And it was basically old antique drones, which the old Google had, which delivered your, but the problem was in those days, because it was so slow, that they had to start on February 7th to get them there on February 14th, as opposed to today when you can order them at 1 o'clock and you can be eating the chocolates at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, right. And we have some incredible chocolate. I'm in Ohio, you're in North Carolina, but we found some incredible chocolate, a chocolate maker in Southern California.
Yeah, absolutely, Bill. David Menkis That's an interesting story. I was out walking with my 6-year-old granddaughter, Melody, and we saw a store, and she looked up at the store and said, "Oh, look, Zadie, chocolate." I said, "Okay." So we opened the door and went in, and David was there, delightful guy, wonderful guy. Forget that he's a great chocolate maker. He is, but he's a nicer guy. And he was giving away free samples that day of hot chocolate, and he had about 20 little bottles with broken pieces of chocolate. So not only did we get to drink the hot chocolate, delicious, wonderful, but we got to sample all these different chocolates, basically from all over the world. Most in the Western Hemisphere, but some from Africa and so forth, some from around the world. So it was wonderful. I met David. We chatted a little bit, and he was kind enough to allow us to do a small interview with him, which we did. So welcome to another edition of Artists on iPhone, when we just go out and find a very interesting artist and bring just an iPhone and see what that person has to say. I think this is probably going to be your favorite one that we've ever done, because I'm here with David Menkis, and David is a chocolatier. So David, before we get into all the sweets and all the wonderful stuff that everybody's chomping to see and taste, tell me how you got into making chocolate.
Sure. So several years ago, my wife and I were on vacation in St. Lucia, and we weren't really thinking about chocolate particularly at the time. There was no one making chocolate, manufacturing chocolate from bean to bar in LA, and so we kind of decided to go down the rabbit hole, and we got some little equipment, and we got a couple pounds of beans, and we ended up stone grinding it by hand. I snuck in our chocolate to one of our tastings, and universally everyone across the board said, "What was number 3 today?" And I said, "Oh, that was mine." They said that was disgusting. It was awful. So, you know, that was a very blunt but very honest bit of feedback for us. And so we kind of took back and thought about it some more and worked on it, and worked on the roast, and worked on the processing, the refining of it. And I'd say after about 6 months of that, we introduced it again, and everyone said, "Hey, what was number 5 today?" And I said, "Oh, that was mine, I made that." And they said, "Oh man, that was great, I want to buy it. How much is it?" And I said, I have no idea how much to charge for a chocolate bar. I don't even have packaging yet. At the time, we were just packaging our chocolate bars with tin foil with a handwritten label. And every bar was hand numbered. It was kind of ridiculous, but that's how we started. And so we thought, okay, well, we spent this much time and this much energy, and we spent this much on the cocoa, so we should probably charge this much. And that's really how everything got started. And then I just kept at it, and we went from 1 machine to 2 to 3 to 4, and eventually we had 9 little melangers all running on our dining room table. So much so that our dining room table started to sag under the weight. So we took that table out and we put in one of those industrial tables in our home, which was fun. And we've had several mishaps where either machines caught on fire in the middle of the night, which was fun, or chocolate getting splattered.
What is the process of making chocolate? You used the term before, from bean to bar.
Right. So basically, and I'll grab one of these, this is a jar full of cocoa beans. This is what we actually start with. So they arrive in 150-pound bags. Each bean weighs about 1 gram. So we make 60-gram bars. So by the time you roast the beans and you remove the shell, but you add the sugar back in, it's 1-to-1. So there's about 60 beans of cocoa per bar. So bean to bar simply means we are starting from beans. We roast the beans, we crack them open, we winnow them, which is removing the shell. We stone grind them for 48 hours, and then we age our chocolate for a month, and then we temper and mold our chocolate into bars. So bean to bar. That's what that process means.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can you give us a quick little tour of where you make the chocolate?
Absolutely. All right, it's a little loud in here, so I'll try to speak up a little bit. So yeah, this is a bean to bar chocolate factory, and this is where we actually take raw cocoa beans, we roast them, and we take it all the way through to finished chocolate. So I'll walk you through each of the different steps. So first off, over here on the left, we have our vibratory sorter. This was custom built for us. You can't just go to a store and buy one of these. It's got 5 different chutes and 5 different meshes, so that it basically, once we break the beans open, it separates all the different sizes, and then the machine in the middle there with the hose, that is our winnower, and that sucks away the lighter shell, and the heavier nibs go into the buckets, and you can see the buckets on the right here are full of nibs. And then over here is the melanging area. Significantly warmer in here. So we have a few different machines. This is our largest machine. This is called the DCM 100. This is about 75 pounds of chocolate. So this will make 600 chocolate bars. It's nearly done. We're actually going to pull this batch today, and we're going to reload it with something else. So basically what happens is you've got, inside these machines you have these stones. They're made of granite, just like that. And it basically spins, and we're basically crushing down the cocoa beans. So if you imagine a nib about this big, it's grinding down smaller and smaller. Then we add the sugar, and that gets added, and that gets crushed down smaller and smaller. So we're not adding any liquid. The chocolate liquefies because of the cocoa butter naturally found in the beans. So we're not adding anything else. It's just the cocoa beans and unrefined cane sugar, and that's it. So once we're done grinding the chocolate, we pour into steam pans. It's basically like large containers, about 25 pounds each. We do 3 per batch, and we chill them overnight. We pop them out, and we age all of our blocks for a month. So I'll show you the library. So this is our chocolate library. All of this chocolate's been aging, and most of it's going to age for at least a month, some of it a little bit longer. We found diminishing returns after about 2 months, so there's really no advantage of going longer than that. It seems like this is a pretty good amount of time, and we found that this helps with flavor development as well as tempering issues. It reduces the moisture content a little bit, but to give you an idea, this is a single batch. It's these 3 bags, and it's about 25 pounds per block.
So right, what I'm looking at is about 75 pounds of chocolate.
Correct, yes.
Eat your heart out if you're not with us here.
Yeah, we work in kilos because we purchase our sugar and cacao beans in kilos, and so we just keep it 1-to-1. It's easier for us. So the sugar that we use, you probably have never seen this. It's called Native, and it's from Brazil. Really, really cool project. It's got every certification known to man. Really, really fantastic organic unrefined cane sugar. We use unrefined cane sugar because it's vegan. In these twin convection ovens, we do around 30 pounds at a time, and we do about 2 or 3 roasts depending on what we're working on. So we put the beans on the sheets here. We roast, each origin's roasted differently. So for example, Ukiali might only roast for about 35 minutes, whereas Ghana can roast for an hour and 10. So there's a lot of variation in the roasting profiles. Part of that has to do with the genetics, and part of it has to do with the physical size of the beans. We're working on a new one right now from Bolivia, and the beans are tiny. They're like almost like seeds. And we have to do a very short, very low roast on that one. Over here, after we're done aging the chocolate, we bring the blocks over into our proofer. If you've never seen a bread proofer, these are typically used with water in them. And what happens is it basically is like a giant humid box. We run them dry. So what that means is that it's like basically a nice large dehydrator. And we do a few things. We warm our molds, and we melt the chocolate in the blocks, and we proof beans overnight. So we roasted these beans from Ghana last night. We're actually going to be cracking and winnowing them today. But earlier today we were melting a block of Belize to make some amaranth crunch. So we take the block. It takes about 12 hours to melt out completely. We then pour it into the tempering machine. It's a machine that basically heats and cools the chocolate to recrystallize it, and that's what gives chocolate its nice snap and sheen. We weigh out the chocolate on the scale, and then we have a vibrating table. This gets rid of air bubbles. After that, we place the molds on trays, and then the trays go into the walk-in. We chill each one for about 30 minutes. Again, it depends on the origin. It depends on if it's a white chocolate or a milk chocolate or a dark chocolate. Dark chocolate can take 20 minutes to solidify. Milk chocolate can take about half an hour, and white chocolate can take up to an hour.
Thank you for the tour, David, but let's get to the real truth of the matter is, here you've got a bunch of delicious chocolate bars. Tell everyone who's watching this, and I strongly suggest everyone watching it do get on David's website. Stuff is really good. I'm going to go home with a couple of bars today as well. So, David, how can people reach you, and how can they decide on which they'd like and which tastes are best? How can you guide them?
So on our website, www.letterpresschocolate.com, is basically the way to find all of our bars. And they're separated by dark, milk, white, flavored bars, and within each one there's a description so you can see what the tasting notes are for each bar. Other than that, if you can go on our website also, www.letterpresschocolate.com. You can also look at our store locator and look all over the country to see which stores near you carry our bars.
Great. David, thank you so much for your time and for your delicious chocolate.
Thank you.
That's a wonderful story, Bill. There's so much of it that I really like. I love the part where his table started to collapse. And then he said, we put some machines on it, and some of them burst into flames, and some of them, which I didn't put on camera, but one of them exploded, and he was cleaning chocolate off his carpet for a few weeks, trying to get it back to its normal self. So it's a wonderful story of entrepreneurship. You know, he and his wife run this place. And it's also a wonderful desire to make a wonderful product, which is something we don't often see anymore in this country. Real craftsmanship, hard work and craftsmanship. And it'd be nice to see more of that all the time coming out of this country, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you do this series, Artists and iPhones, and you don't think of someone who deals with food as being an artisan, but David, without question, is an artisan. Letterpress Chocolates is a work of art to one, have it taste so good, and two, just the presentation is a work of art.
Oh, absolutely, Bill. Absolutely. You know, David and his wife, they put their heart and soul into this thing. You know, they're working all the time. It's a two-person, one man, one woman operation. So they're in there all the time working and doing things and preparing things. Their packaging is beautiful. The factory in the back is spotlessly clean. There's always a smiling one of them in the front of the place to give you little tidbits of chocolate, or if you're lucky enough to come on the right hot chocolate day, give you some of that to answer your questions. He was delightful to sit down with us, as you saw, and tell us about, you know, bean to bar is what they like to say. They control the entire process. So you know what you're getting is first class. But also what's interesting is, and for me especially, they use that special sugar from Brazil, which is pure vegan. So if you're a vegan out there, which 11 of us still are, you can go in there and get their dark chocolate and be sure that it's vegan.
It just came to mind. I remember, I don't know, back in the mid 80s, there was a guy and his wife, same kind of deal, only they made cookies. And they just a little boutique cookie company, and they chocolate chip and oatmeal and so forth. And through the years, I watched it grow until they had multiple shops and trucks delivering cookies around the city. So I can imagine that David and Letterpress Chocolates, they have their website. They distribute all over the United States. You can go on their website. I found a place in Ohio that's about an hour away from me. The weather didn't allow me to drive down there and pick up a bar, but it's enthusiastically watch. You could be enthusiastic in watching how a guy could take a dream and he and his wife can build it into a rather large business.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the business that you're talking about, I happen to know that fella. You mean Famous Amos is who you're talking about.
Well, no, this was somebody else. It was Snoop Cookies. It was Famous Amos is a famous story, but cookies that grew from just a little thing to having a citywide, probably a statewide business.
Yeah, well, Famous Amos, I like him because, you know, he supported for many years LVA, which is Literary Volunteers of America, teaching adults how to read. So he took the extra step by not only becoming a businessman and an entrepreneur, but also to give back to a cause that's very needed. We have, I don't know what the numbers are, but they're large. Those of us who are adults over 18 or 20 who still can't read. And those folks can certainly get help. And Famous Amos was right at the forefront of that. So good for him. Good for him.
David Menkis, Letterpress Chocolates, a very special time of the year in Valentine's Day. It's worth going to letterpresschocolates.com. They have a store locator there. Put your zip code in and find out where it is. It's not a $1 Snickers bar, though I remember when Snickers bars were a nickel.
A dime, yeah.
But it's not a $1 bar. But then this is, you don't buy $3 steaks either. You spend some money.
Yeah.
Steak. So for those who chocolate doesn't go beyond a candy bar, this is something that is a little beyond that. This is gourmet chocolate. And once you taste it, you're going to know that this is different. It's not just something to buy at the counter on the spur of the moment while you're checking out at the grocery store.
Speaking of chocolate bars, Bill, I always have a little question and answer for you. When do you think the first chocolate bar was invented?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say 1700, 1750, let's say.
That's not too bad. The creation of the first modern chocolate bar is credited to Joseph Fry, who in 1847 discovered that he could make a moldable chocolate paste by adding melted cacao butter back into the Dutch cocoa. And by 1868, a little company called Cadbury was marketing boxes of chocolate all across England. The history of chocolate begins in Mesoamerica. Fermented beverages made from chocolate date back 350 BC. The Aztecs believed that cacao seeds were the gift of Quetzalcoatl, the god of wisdom, and the seeds once had so much value, they were actually used as a form of currency. Now, one of us has been on Wikipedia all weekend, don't you?
Exactly.
It's funny stuff. I love stuff like that. It's just interesting to know that stuff,
Well, David Menkis, Letterpress Chocolates, letterpresschocolates.com. Go check it out. Find out where you could buy it near you. And you might even be able to find it before Valentine's Day and have something special for Valentine's Day, not just the heart-shaped sampler box, but something that might be a little different for you and your Valentine this Valentine's Day.
Bill, I went on that website. Now, when I was in California, of course, I ate a bunch of bars. And when David's watching this, he's nodding his head saying, oh, yes, he did. But now, I live near Asheville, North Carolina, and there is a store in Asheville that sells David's chocolates. So yesterday, I took a nice ride to Asheville, and I got a bar, which I'm going to eat, which will never see the light of Valentine's Day morning, for sure. But since you, my friend, don't have anything close, here's one for you, too.
All right.
So, here's your Valentine's Day. And I will deliver this bar to you because last podcast, you remember, I lost a Super Bowl bet to you.
Yes.
So I have to drive to your house and buy us a pair of tickets for a Cleveland Browns football game, and we will each have a new one by then, not this very one. Bar of chocolate to go with it to enjoy during the game.
I look forward to it, partner. That's a special time. When the schedule comes out, hopefully we can find a game where even if it's in even if it's in New York, we can find a game where the Cleveland Browns play the New York Giants and go and
eat chocolate and drink beer.
And drink beer and have chocolate bars. Let everyone laugh at us. Look at these clowns,
Hey, who cares?
Yeah, who cares? It's fun. It's fun.
Right.
Till the next time, take care of each other and respect each other.
Peace.
Happy Valentine's Day. You can get this podcast. You can tell someone else about this podcast. It's available through YouTube, through iTunes, and through Google Play. Let's hear from you. Let us know what you think so that we can be in community with you. And there is a way to contact us. That's at peter@agnituslife.com, or bill@agnituslife.com. That's our email addresses. Let's hear from you. Let's open up the forum.